Life can pass so quickly that, before you know it, half of it is already gone. Carl Jung warned that many people go through life on autopilot, accumulating years of empty choices and carrying a constant sense of dissatisfaction. The worst part is that this realization often comes too late, when there's no way to recover the lost time. But what really differentiates those who waste life from those who live with purpose? The answer lies in how each person deals with their own choices. There are clear signs that something is wrong, and if identified in time, they can completely change the course of life. The answers to this emptiness aren't where most people look. They require a deeper perspective, a confrontation with truths that few have the courage to face. Some of these truths may be uncomfortable, others may be liberating. What matters is that, once you see what's really going on, there's no going back. Jung taught that ignoring your own dissatisfaction only reinforces the cycle of frustration. And ignoring it may be the greatest mistake of your life. Many people live thinking they will have plenty of time to do everything they want. But one day, they look back and realize that half their life has passed. Carl Jung warned about this risk. He saw time as a finite resource, and wasting it on things that don't have meaning inevitably leads to regret. Modern life teaches that happiness is always in the future, in the next job, the next purchase, the next achievement. But is that really true? Many people chase goals without even knowing why. They work, they strive, they make plans, and still feel an emptiness they can't explain. These days, when someone feels this emptiness, the quickest solution is to take medicine or watch motivational videos. That might help for a while, but it doesn't solve the real problem. Jung believed that sadness and anxiety don't just appear for no reason. They are signs that something inside the person is wrong and needs to change. True transformation begins when you view these signs as guides, not as enemies. But instead of listening to these signals, many try to ignore them, hoping they'll disappear on their own. And time passes. Years go by, and when the person realizes it, that future they were waiting for is now in the past. How many dreams were put aside? How many opportunities were lost? There's nothing wrong with having a routine and paying the bills, but life can't just be that. The problem isn't failing. It's never having tried to discover what truly makes sense. And the first step to stop wasting life is exactly that, questioning whether what you do daily is a conscious choice or just an unconscious habit. The answer is not in what others say, but within yourself. This feeling of wasting time doesn't come out of nowhere. It appears when someone ignores their own desires. Many use work or their phone to avoid thinking about it. But Jung warned that running away from these thoughts can make everything worse. Existential procrastination, that constant waiting for the right moment, only prolongs the feeling of dissatisfaction. If someone is always waiting for the right time to act, they may never do anything. What are they waiting for? For everything to be perfect? For fear to vanish? For courage to appear on its own? That day isn't going to come by itself. So what to do? Some people feel guilty for not having started earlier. But dwelling on the past won't solve anything. What's gone is gone. What matters now is what can still be done. The only way to recover lost time is to stop wasting more time. Life isn't going to wait for anyone to be ready. And when a person understands that, they discover they can still make choices. They can still transform the time they have ahead. But for that, they need to accept one truth. You can't change the past, but you can decide how you will live from now on. While you wait, life keeps moving on, and every lost day is an opportunity that never comes back. Anxiety and depression are still only seen as brain problems. Modern medicine treats these disorders with medication, as if they were just chemical failures. But Carl Jung saw it differently. For him, these feelings were signs of a lifestyle that's not working. A person feels emptiness because something inside them needs to change. If they just take a pill and keep going with the same routine, the problem might stay hidden for a while, but it doesn't disappear. When depression is treated solely as a physical problem, the patient starts to believe there's nothing they can do. If it all comes down to a chemical imbalance, then the only solution would be to take more medication. But what if the problem is deeper? What if sadness is a reflection of a lack of purpose? What if it comes from years of ignoring what truly matters? The solution isn't just in a pill. It's in the courage to question what needs to change in your own life. Jung compared this to a fire alarm. When an alarm goes off, a person doesn't simply turn it off and go back to sleep. They investigate what's happening. Sadness and anxiety work the same way. They are not defects but signs. If a person is always feeling down, tired, or distressed, it could be a warning. What's wrong? The work? The relationships? A lack of time for themselves? Ignoring these signs doesn't make dissatisfaction disappear, it grows. That's why Jung believed that mental health cannot be separated from the way a person lived. A toxic environment can be just as harmful as a physical illness. Similarly, a life without purpose can make someone feel empty, even if they have money, status, and achievements. This is why some people seem to have it all, but still, they are unhappy. Healing begins when a person stops running from their own dissatisfaction and decides to listen to what it's trying to say. But to listen, one must first accept that life will not always be easy. Life was never meant to be a sea of tranquility. Those who expect a path without obstacles will be disappointed sooner or later. Since childhood, many are taught that suffering should be avoided at all costs, but this creates a problem. When difficulties arise, the person feels wronged, as if something is wrong. But the truth is that these challenges shape character and strengthen the mind. Trying to escape them only delays growth. The idea that happiness depends on avoiding problems does not hold up. Some have a comfortable life, yet still feel a constant emptiness. Others face daily struggles but carry a spark in their eyes. The difference lies in how each person faces challenges. Accepting reality doesn't mean settling for any situation, but understanding that the ups and downs are part of the path. Many people spend their lives running from anything that seems difficult. They avoid uncomfortable conversations, ignore signs of dissatisfaction, and wait for a perfect moment that never comes. But this strategy doesn't work. Time doesn't stop, and ignoring reality doesn't make it easier. Those who learn to face challenges without feeling like victims develop something rare, inner strength. And it's this strength that will allow them to move forward when everything seems to collapse. The idea that life should always be comfortable keeps many people stuck in an endless waiting game. They believe that when the conditions are ideal, that's when they'll start taking action. But what if that day never comes? The only certainty is that time keeps passing. Suffering shouldn't be sought after, but when it comes, it can teach valuable lessons. It reveals what needs to change and how far the person can go. Looking back can be helpful, but staying stuck in what has already happened is like trying to drive a car while only looking in the rearview mirror. Time moves forward, but some people remain stuck in old stories, reliving moments that can no longer be changed. This fixation may seem productive, as if understanding every detail of the past brings some sort of liberation. But in reality, it only reinforces an endless cycle, preventing any real progress. Remembering past events may bring clarity, but there is a limit to how useful that is. Some people spend years trying to find the exact origin of their problems, hoping that this discovery alone will change everything. But knowing the reason doesn't mean the change happens automatically. While the person analyzes, reflects, and reminisces, life continues to happen. The present can't be indefinitely postponed. Attributing all difficulties to the past can be a mistake. It's true that experiences shape the way each person views the world, but continually blaming the past for the present doesn't change anything. At some point, one must stop searching for explanations and start taking action. Those who cling too much to old pains risk missing all the opportunities still ahead. The past can teach, but it cannot be rewritten. Some situations didn't have a fair ending, some pains were never acknowledged, and that can be hard to accept. But life doesn't wait for anyone. Every day spent reliving what's already past is a day less to create something new. Everyone has a side they prefer to hide. These are thoughts that don't align with the image a person wants to project, feelings that seem wrong, impulses that generate guilt. This set of repressed aspects forms what Carl Jung called the shadow. The problem with ignoring it is that it doesn't disappear. On the contrary, it grows in silence and eventually manifests in destructive ways. Hidden anger turns into unexpected outbursts. Repressed fear becomes paralysis. Denied envy disguises itself as criticism. Those who avoid looking at their own shadow risk projecting it onto others. Have you noticed how certain behaviors in others stir up disproportionate irritation in you? What bothers you most in others could be a reflection of something you haven't accepted within yourself. Someone who condemns arrogance may be hiding their own need for recognition. Someone who harshly criticizes weakness may be denying their own vulnerability. Recognizing the shadow requires courage. It is facing the truth that no one is just the idealized version they wish to show. But there's a secret that few know. The shadow is not limited to negative aspects. Often, talents, desires, and powerful traits were repressed because they were not accepted by the environment in which the person grew up. Someone who learned to always be nice may have buried their assertiveness. Someone who was told from an early age that they were weak may have suffocated their true strength. Ignoring this hidden side doesn't make it disappear. The repressed shadow finds ways to manifest, often in destructive ways. If anger arises frequently, it could be a sign that important boundaries are being disrespected. If the happiness of others bothers someone, perhaps there are suppressed desires that need to be acknowledged. The shadow is not an enemy. It points the way to forgotten parts of one's identity. Observing one's own judgments can reveal much about oneself. The behaviors that cause the most discomfort in others often reflect something unresolved internally. If anger arises when seeing someone asserting themselves, it might be a sign that expressing one's own desires has been repressed. If there's contempt for someone seeking attention, there might be a hidden need to be seen and recognized. The shadow hides in these details, and paying attention to these reactions can be the first step to bringing it to light. Additionally, revisiting the past help. Moments of shame, mistakes that still weigh on the conscience, or situations of exclusion carry clues about personality aspects that were rejected. A good practice is to revisit these memories and ask, what does this say about me? What part of my identity was left behind? This self-analysis requires honesty. It's not about self-punishment, but about understanding which traits were suffocated by the fear of rejection. Another way to recognize the shadow is to pay attention to dreams and spontaneous impulses. The unconscious mind finds ways to signal what has been repressed. Dreams of chasing, confrontations, or unknown figures can indicate inner conflict. Certain impulses, like feeling envy of someone who took a bold step, can reveal deep desires that were suppressed. Instead of ignoring these reactions, it's worth asking, what is this trying to show me? Facing the shadow is not a comfortable process, but it's essential for self-awareness. Often, what has been repressed are not weaknesses, but strengths that were never fully developed. Recovering these forgotten parts of the identity can be the first step to finding a greater purpose. A life without purpose feels heavy. When someone wakes up not knowing why they do what they do, the days pass without meaning. Work becomes a burden, relationships feel empty, and nothing feels satisfying. This emptiness may be mistaken for sadness or anxiety, but in reality, it's the lack of direction that eats away at the soul. Some ancient societies, like the Pueblo, had a strong sense of belonging. Each person knew they were part of something greater. This feeling gave meaning to existence. Modernity, on the other hand, has created a scenario where everything is fleeting. Relationships, jobs, even beliefs change quickly. This generates uncertainty and the feeling of always being adrift. Without a clear purpose, the mind loses its way. This is why so many people try to fill this emptiness with consumption, entertainment, or distractions. But these band-aids don't last. When the effect wears off, the anguish returns. True purpose is not in external achievements, but in what gives life meaning from the inside out. But how to discover this purpose? There's no single answer. For some, it may be in spirituality. For others, in art, knowledge, or the desire to contribute to the world. The most important thing is to find something that makes each day worth living. A simple exercise is to ask, if money weren't an issue, how would I choose to live my days? This answer might give clues about what really matters. Because, in the end, finding purpose doesn't mean changing the whole world, but changing the way one sees life. The modern world makes this search difficult. The fast pace, social pressures, and the idea that happiness can be bought make it so that few stop to reflect. The contrast between ancient societies and current life clearly shows how the lack of purpose has become a problem. In the past, people knew their role in the community. There were rites of passage, traditions, and a sense of belonging that guided life. This didn't eliminate difficulties, but created a solid foundation. The Pueblo, for example, believed they were part of a divine drama, where each individual had a function. This belief strengthened the mind and brought peace. The modern world has fragmented this structure. Freedom has increased, but with it came uncertainty. Today, there are endless options but no clear direction. Instead of feeling part of something bigger, many feel lost, always searching for something they never find. The feeling of being in constant motion without knowing where to go reflects this existential void. This endless search for something undefined can become a vicious cycle. Some try to fill it with travel, shopping, excessive work, or superficial relationship. But none of this solves the problem. The dilemma of modernity is not the lack of possibilities, but the difficulty in finding something that truly matters. The existential void is like a hunger that never goes away. There's a sense that something is missing, but it's unclear what. To try and fill this space, some seek new experiences, change cities, switch jobs, or invest in relationships that seem promising. These changes bring a temporary sense of novelty, but the void always returns. This happens because the problem isn't outside, but inside. Until this internal root is addressed, nothing will be enough. Many believe that achieving certain goals will bring fulfillment. But is that true? How many times has someone thought, when I get that job, I'll be happy, or when I meet the right person, everything will make sense? And when that happens, the satisfaction is short-lived. A new goal, a new need, soon emerges. This cycle never ends, because the search isn't for something external, but for real meaning in existence. The answer isn't in having more, traveling more, or earning more money. It's in looking inward and understanding what truly gives life meaning. Some ancient cultures had rituals to help their members find this inner connection. Among the Pueblo, for example, there was a belief that each individual was part of a greater story, something larger than themselves. This gave direction and purpose. In the modern world, where these traditions have disappeared, each person needs to discover for themselves what makes their existence valuable. The meaning of life isn't something found by chance. It needs to be built. Some people wait for everything to make sense one day, as if by magic, but that rarely happens. Those who live waiting for a purpose might spend their whole lives without finding it. The truth is, it must be actively created, based on each person's values and interests. This requires reflection and effort. For some, purpose is found in religion, spirituality, or the pursuit of knowledge. For others, it emerges in work, art, or the impact they have on others' lives. What matters is that it's something that brings meaning to those who choose that path. Modernity fragmented the old structures of meaning, and without a dominant mythology, each person must build their own story. What justifies your existence? What makes it worthwhile to wake up every day? These are questions that cannot be ignored. There's no single answer. What works for one person may not work for another. But there is a pattern. Those who find a clear purpose live with more motivation and inner strength. They are not dragged by the chaos of the modern world because they have something solid within them. Life stops being a desperate search and becomes a conscious construction. If you enjoyed this content, I invite you to check out my ebook, an exclusive material here on the channel. It's a guide that can help you at this stage of your life. And if you're enjoying these videos, leave your opinion in the comments and let me know what topic you'd like to see here. Thank you,